Hello my YouTube friends! Background removal tools have gotten so good these days in OBS and other streaming tools that it is now possible to appear to be streaming from anywhere. Today I want to show you how you can craft an awesome background for your live streams or videos like this one, or this one, or this one, or even this one. So you know what? Let's get to it! Now you may notice the one thing missing in the intro that is usually in all my other intros, and that is the word free. Believe me, I wanted to create this video using totally free tools. Unfortunately, the free tools just suck. That's just the reality. I could have put together something where you would have spent hours and hours and hours doing bunches of different iterations and watching crappy ads in the app to keep the product free, only to come out with an inferior result. What's the point in that? I know I am not about to waste your time on garbage. So I used Photoshop to create these backgrounds. Of course, any of the other plugins that I use are always free, and there are links to them in the description down below. I also do some animation on one of these, and I use a free software called CapCut to do that as well. I'm going to show you that today. So here's how you do it. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna start this out trying it with our regular background. So I'm just gonna drag this in here. We're gonna get that. And what I'm gonna do is go ahead and zoom out a little bit. We're gonna go to the crop tool here. I wanna make sure 16:9 is selected because that's the ratio I want. And I'm just gonna kind of zoom it out down here at the bottom, trying to make sure that we have the same amount of fill on both sides here so that our center stays basically the same. The first way that we can do this is by putting our information right in here as to what we want to be filled into the background. So let's put space station on here and let's try to spell everything right so it knows what we're looking for, and we'll just click generate and let's see what we get. All right, that's interesting. You get 3 versions, which you can see 1, 2, and 3. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a scene. And that's kind of interesting. If you don't like anything that it gives you, you can generate it again and it will regenerate the scene until you get exactly what you're looking for. But the thing that you're going to notice about doing it this way is that all of this stuff ends up in the foreground. So you can see how my image is kind of in the background. It's kind of blurry. For some reason, when you do your iterative fill like this or your generative fill like this, it wants to put things in the foreground, like this right here. Now this seems kind of blurred out and that sort of stuff, so it matches in a little more. It put kind of a chair down here and some junk on the floor over here. But I don't know that this is really what we're looking for either. That's a little more interesting, I suppose, but you would basically have to cut this out and put it in front of your scene so that it would be in the foreground. It could probably look pretty cool that way if you wanted to do it, and that's just not great. So none of these really impress me. We're gonna try doing this a different way. So I'm just gonna turn that off and we're gonna go back to our layer number 1. And what I'm gonna do is go up here to the box and I'm gonna select this area down here. We're gonna do generative fill, and here I'm just gonna type in the same thing, space station, and we're going to click enter and let's see what we get here. Nothing usable there. Kind of usable, I suppose. That's a little bit on the interesting side, so we can kind of expand on this. Now you can see that we can use these little edges here that it's already given us to inform what we want on the rest of the scene. So now we can still have our tool selected and we can go and select this right here and space station and click generate, and it should fill this area out with what we already have. That's not great. That's kind of interesting, but still too much in the foreground, I feel like. We could go with something like that. That makes sense, I suppose. Let's try and see what we get here if we do it on the other side. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and put in here space station. Now what this is going to do is it's going to take everything that we've already done into account, so that it all is supposedly going to make sense. It's going to understand that this is here and what we did on the floor, and it's going to try to kind of replicate that sort of thing over here on this side. So this should be the most informed segment of the image that we create. So we should get, generally speaking, better results. So this first one is about the most informed. It's kind of got a weird angle to it, which I don't really like. So we're going to go ahead and just regenerate that and let's see what we get. And we got that. I like that. That's kind of cool. All right, well, let's go with this first one here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my crop tool and I'm going to just adjust it out. And this time, if we do this, I'm just trying to make sure my center stays the same. And this time, if we do this, now we can put in here space station. And now it uses all this other information that kind of informs it. And we should get a better result for this. And it'll clean up this box right here. So now we're getting somewhere. Now that looks really, really pretty cool. We can see what we've got here and there. I kind of like the first one. I think it did a pretty nice job right there of giving me something that I like. Now we've got a pretty cool little, what looks like a studio in a space station. If we wanted to take this a little bit further, and I haven't had a lot of luck with this, but we can try it right here. What I could do is go with something like this. And we can put porthole looking into space. We can see what we're going to get with that. Might be great, might be bad. Just keep in mind, we're not really going to ruin anything that we've already created. And that is pretty bad. No. So we didn't really get anything that works for us. So what we would probably do is go over here and expand. So window showing an amazing space scene on a space station. And let's see what we get from that. I kind of like this, but it's too much in the foreground, so we would have to figure out a way that we could put it in the background and make it work. That's not great. That's kind of interesting, I suppose, if it was in the context of an actual window, and that doesn't work either. So like I said, when you do these sorts of fills, I haven't had a lot of luck. Now what we could do theoretically is take this and put it into something like that, but I don't think that works either. So the only real way to fix this is just to scrap that idea altogether, go back to the original scene, or continue to iterate. So window into the space outside the space station. Let's give it one more try, see if it'll give us what we're looking for here. That's interesting. Probably usable because you could just cut this out in the center here and put in whatever you want. That could probably work. I mean, these are at least better. I like that the best because it shows it's out of focus and you could cut that out and pretty much make it whatever you want. You could even put some sort of an animated video back there. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and leave that because I want to show you how you can animate this stuff if you want to as well. So we're going to use that little porthole as our animation. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to select our elliptical tool and we're going to just kind of grab this and I'm going to move it over onto our porthole. I'm going to go ahead and clear it. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to go into our layer and I'm going to have to rasterize the layer. And then I can go over here and I can clear it. And you can see we still have the background in here. So I'm going to go down to that layer and I'm going to go and edit and clear it as well. We're getting a little bit of this top layer right. Let's see, which layer would that be? So we've got to select that one and clear that as well. That's not rasterized yet, so we're going to go into our layer, rasterize, layer, and then what we're going to do is we're going to edit and clear that. So now we have a clear porthole into space. So that's kind of the new backdrop that we have. What we can do is go to File and Export, Export As. We want to format this in a PNG because we want the transparency. And we should be able to do 1920 and it should automatically change it to 1080. So there we go. So now it's going to be in the size that we want because we did it in 16:9. And we can export this and let's call this our spaceport background. There we go. And we're going to click save. And what I'm going to do is just put this into CapCut totally free. And we're going to put a little animation behind here very quickly. All right, so here in CapCut, we're going to go to a new project. And what I'm going to do is go into the location where we saved our image. And that would be the spaceport background. We're going to drag that in here. And we're going to drag this down onto our scene. And now what we need to do is go and find something we want. So let's just type in space background. We're looking for good spelling first. That always helps when you're trying to find something. We're going to go into images. We're just really looking for an image that we can use that's very large. And now what I'm going to do is go back into CapCut and we have our space background. I'm just going to drag it over here. And then what I'm going to do is drag this down here And nope, we don't want to replace the clip. We're going to move this clip up, and we're going to bring this clip down here. And there we go. So now we can see this clip in the background. But what we want to do is we want to kind of get it to move. So we can scale our clip, and that can give us some movement. We'll zoom this out here. What we can do is just move the position of the clip over time. So in other words, let's start with 0. We want to give it the impression of the fact that we're moving through space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with it kind of up here, zoomed out like that. And we're going to click on the scale, and we're going to click on the position. And we can even get some rotation involved in here. Okay? And that's at the beginning of the clip. So we're just going to come out here to the end of the clip. And what we're going to do is we're going to scale this up massively. And we don't really even need to move it, but we're gonna move it over like this. And we're gonna just rotate it just a hair. So now you could see what we get in that portal over time is a movement of some space outside the window. And so now what I can do is select this bottom one here and just hold down Alt and move it out here, and it'll snap. And I'm going to select this and hold down Alt and move it out here and just bump it up there. We've got a keyframe right there, and we've got a keyframe right there. And so what we can do is go ahead and just reverse those keyframes. And so I'm going to zoom in here, and I'm going to move this keyframe right here. Whoop, no. I'm going to just grab the keyframe, and I'm going to move it over here, and I'm going to grab this keyframe, and I'm going to move it over here. All right, so we're not going to do that. We're just going to copy this one, Control C, and I'm going to move my handle all the way down here to the end, and we're going to hit Control V, and that pastes it. And then what I can do is delete it, and then I can take this one and move it all the way over here. And so now what we get is we go like this, and then we go like this. And so it's always moving. And then when we loop this clip, it will look like it's all moving in one simple direction. And you can obviously animate this in any way that you want to create any kind of animated background. We also have this white outline back here, which gives the appearance of a little bit of light. You could cut it differently if you wanted to. You can do whatever you want. But this is how easy it is to create an animated backdrop. So all I have to do now is go to export, and we want to export this in 1080p, H.264, all this kind of stuff. We may want to do it in 30 frames per second since that's what we stream at. And we can call this animated space background. And there we go. So now we can make sure that it's going to the location that we want, and select the folder and export it. And there we go. Let me go ahead and show you how to add this into your OBS, just in case you're wondering. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and create a video capture device, which is our camera, and that's the camera I'm going to use. I can just add a microphone to make sure that I get the microphone that I want. This one right here. There we go. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go into our filters, and I'm just going to go ahead and remove my background. Super simple. And then all we need to do is put our background in there. In this case, it's going to be a media source because we actually animated it into something more than an image. And we're going to go and find our media source that we created. And right here, animated space background, and click open. We want to go ahead and loop it and click OK. And you can see how that works. And the space moves pretty quick. It just goes forward and back. All we have to do is move us in front of there. And there we go. We can see it moving. Now, if we don't like the speed at which that moves, we can go back into CapCut, edit it so it moves slower or there's less movement. But if we wanted to change that up, we just select our media source. We can right click, go into properties, and what we can do is go here to the speed and adjust it down like that. And, you know, the more you adjust it down, the slower that will go. Or you could go back into CapCut and re-edit it. Either way, you're going to get basically that space moving in the background. You do see it goes back and forth. There are lots of ways that you can edit it to make it look a lot more like it's rotating in a natural way or moving through space in a natural way, where when you loop it, you don't get the cuts. But given the fact that it's kind of right behind my head, when I just lean over, you could see it moving in space, and then I move back. Well, most people are never going to see those cuts. And honestly, this scene looks pretty cool. Now, obviously, you don't have to just start with your background. You could start with any background. So you could just go in here, Film Studio, and there you go. You've got a bunch of images of film studio style things. You could grab one of these film studio images and you could use it as your background. But the reason why I don't like these sorts of things is because it makes it difficult to put you in the perspective of the actual image. So you could do the same thing with this and expand out the edges, make it look like whatever you want, or even just reuse the image. But I feel like it's not really giving you what you might be looking for. However, we could go into our Photoshop again and we could create a new file and we could just use 1920 by 1080. And what we can do is go up here and we can just select the whole thing, go to generative fill, and type in what we want. So let's try Jungle Studio and click generate and see what it does. So it's a jungle scene, not much studio going on here. Yeah, neither of these seem particularly useful. So you can go and modify it, Jungle Film Studio, and see what we get with that. Something like that could actually work pretty well because you could put yourself back in here behind the desk if you wanted to, and that could work well because you can easily zoom in or out of the image. So you basically have one here, and like I said, you can keep doing these over and over again. I actually kind of like this one because it gives you foreground and background. Let's try Jungle Film Studio. Instead of that, let's try Jungle Film Set. And once again, you've got some kind of interesting ones here, but really this is the only one that you could ever use. You could theoretically put all of this stuff in the foreground and then a little clip of the back of this and put yourself in here. You could zoom in and out. Probably make it look pretty cool. In fact, I think that would work pretty nicely. Now, if you're not aware about how you might do something like creating a background image and a foreground image, the easiest way to do that is to do something like this. So what I would do is make sure the image is selected, and I would go to our select tool, which is right here, and I would just probably select areas in here. And what I would do is use the Alt key to unselect areas that I don't want in the background there. So now we've got kind of this little outline here. I would do a Control C, and then I'd go to this layer down here and Control V, and I've pasted it there. So now what I can do is move it wherever I want. So if I turn this off, you could see that we just have this little background area. And if I turn this on, we have our foreground area. So what I would want to do, and I'm going to go to our select, and we're going to reselect, and I'm going to select the front area, our jungle area, and we want to clear that. And because it's not rasterized, we can't. So we'll go into layer, and we're going to go to rasterize and layer. And then what I'm going to do is go into the edit, and we're going to clear. So now we can unselect, and we see a little bit of an outline. So what I'm going to do is just go into this layer right here, and I'm just going to kind of embiggen it just a little bit, and then use the arrow keys to move it over, and there we go. We just want to make sure that we don't have the edges. I'm gonna uncheck this, and I'm gonna go File and Export, and we're gonna export this as a PNG export, and we'll call this Jungle Foreground. And then what we're going to do is we're going to uncheck that and check that, and we're going to go to File and Export, and we want to export this as a PNG, and we're going to go to our jungle background. So just to give you a little bit of an idea how something like this might work, let's go into OBS, click the plus, and I'm going to go with our, let's just do FG for foreground, click OK. And then I'm going to go ahead and browse to our jungle foreground and click open. And there we go. So now we've got that. What we can do is add a camera. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and add a video capture device. And there we go. We've got a microphone in the way. We'll just move that out of the way there. And We'll add some audio to this as well. There we go. Make that more recognizable for you. And what I'm going to do is right click on here, go to filters, and I'm just going to click this plus, and I'm going to go ahead and remove my background with the background removal tool here. Boom, close. And so now I could basically just put me in here. Obviously you want to be smart about the scale, and there we go, we're covered up. Now we just click the plus and we go to our image, and we're going to do BG and click OK, and we're just going to select our forest background or our jungle background and click opened, and there we go. So all we have to do is move that down below us, and now we are embedded in the scene. And we can do a move transition if we wanted to. So we'll click the plus and we're going to go and select the move transition. And I'm not going to even set any of this up. I'm just going to click OK. And then what I'm going to do is right click on this, and I'm going to duplicate the scene. Call this scene 2. That's fine. And I'm going to select everything in this scene, and I'm just going to go ahead and embiggen it. You can see that doesn't work the way we would hope it would work. But that's all right. We're going to move that like that. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and zoom out on this. And I'm going to go and select our background. And we're going to just match the box. And then we can select our video camera. And we're just going to zoom it up like that. And there we go. So now when we zoom in, you can see what we get. And we can adjust this camera so it looks like it makes sense. There we go. So now we can go back and forth. We could zoom directly into our scene when we move from one scene to another. So now we have a fully unique and bespoke that no one else is going to have background in our live stream or in our videos that looks really cool. Before long, you're going to be creating some awesome backgrounds. Is there some free generative fill software that I'm not aware of that can give similar results? If you know one, let me know in the comments. And as usual, if you have any questions about anything I showed you today, you can always ask the questions on my live stream. They're every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I look forward to seeing you there. And if you want to see how to create animated overlays for your live stream using totally free AI tools, check this video out. And if you're always looking for tools, tips, and tricks to help make you a better live streamer or YouTuber, subscribe to the channel. My name is Michael Feyrer Jr. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.